How's it going, YouTube? It's your boy Optima back with a brand new episode of our meta assessment series where we do deep meta dives to ensure the meta thrives. I know we did miss out on an episode last week, but that was actually purposeful. We were just getting into the thick of things with the Ascendant seasonal, the Ascendants of the Empire seasonal, and yeah, I wanted to allow things to just kind of wrap up before we really kind of tried to dive into any data and have just a very clear picture of where this season kind of ended in Legends of Runeterra. And now we actually have that, and I honestly have to say, wow, production wise, commentating wise, quality wise, entertainment, difference in archetypes brought from top to bottom. This was an amazing season. So shout outs to everyone who was involved, from the competitors, casters, production team, and anyone behind the scenes who we don't really see. Everyone did a fantastic job, and I was thoroughly entertained watching. I even stayed up so late trying to even watch the SEA seasonal as well. So lots of entertainment from this seasonal, and I couldn't be more excited to have an awesome guest with us today.
The brighter my light, the stronger your shadow.
I guess he must have had a really bad hand or something. I don't know. That was what a way to make it into Masters, dude. That's really funny. Not gonna lie. Oh, 72 LP. What? Dude, I literally just got almost 100 LP for that.
For this episode of Meta Assessment, and that's going to be none other than BlueGod, who was a top 8 finisher this past weekend. How's it going, man?
Hey guys, it's me, BlueGod. That's going well for me, man. I just ate some good food. I'm chilling.
Heck yeah, man. How are you feeling after a pretty deep tournament run?
Oh, dude, I can't like even begin to describe it. Like I was really happy. Very
Nice.
proud of my accomplishment. For those of you who didn't know, this was like my first ever like lore tournament, right? Just like to be able to make it to top 8 was like kind of insane to me. So really happy about that.
Yeah, that just really shows how probably some prior experience there, but we'll definitely get into that. But definitely some prior gaming experience somewhere to be able to go from, yeah, not really competing in a tournament at all to just getting in one of this magnitude with this many quality players and making that deep of a run and even losing to the eventual champion. Like, wow, you have a lot to be proud of, and I'm glad to hear that you also feel accomplished, because yeah, lots to feel
Mm-hmm.
proud of for
Appreciate
sure.
it.
Of course, man. So before we get too much into that tournament run, I kind of want to just rewind things a little back. Take us to your background. Where exactly did you start with getting to where you are with Legends of Runeterra? Whether it was with a different competitive video game or something card related, just give us a little bit of rundown of
Mm-hmm.
who BlueGod is and how you got here.
Okay, so who BlueGod is? So I started competitively video game, right? I didn't play card games when I started gaming. I played fighting games, right? I started with Soul Calibur 5 in 2013, right? So this was 8 years ago. I started playing competitive video games a long time ago. Eventually, Soul Calibur 6 came out. I picked that up. Um, I competed. I traveled. For those of you that know Evo, I have actually won an Evo for Soul Calibur 6. I won Evo Japan in 2020. So like I have a lot of experience in competitively gaming, right? But I've never actually played a card game until lore. I started playing lore when the Targon expansion dropped, Call of the Mountain, and ever since like I started, I just kept playing. The game is so fun. And eventually, because like very competitive, I eventually wanted to start picking it up competitively. And the seasonal tournaments gave me a chance to do that. So
So,
Yeah, that's kind of my story of how I got here.
wow, what an incredible story to know that you didn't really come from a card game background like a lot of other people. Whether it honestly is Magic the Gathering,
Mm-hmm.
Gwent, Yu-Gi-Oh, it almost feels like most of the high-level competitors all come from some pretty deep roots within a competitive card game community. And even though you did have reached the highest of feats, winning an Evo in Japan for Soul Calibur, I just feel like obviously the what's the word I'm looking for? Those like essential like base level skills you need to have to be good at a fighting game, to be good at a card game, are still a little inherently different, rather than just the critical thinking part. So it's really cool you're able to still though apply the skills that you were able to get from a game like Soul Calibur and use those in Legends of Runeterra to kind of give you some way of competing with these people who have been playing card games their whole life. So wow, that is insane to hear. Moving on from that, or actually, I'm just also a little curious. So this recent seasonals, the Ascendance of the Empire, that was your first LOR tournament entirely, or your first like big one?
So technically, yes. So there were two seasonals before that. Okay,
Yeah.
the first one I did not wake up in time.
Oh no.
And the second one, yeah, the second one I actually like was there and I clicked ready up, but for some reason I don't know. Maybe I was late. Maybe like my internet connection cut or something. But I got DQ'd in my first match, and
Oh no.
that kind of made me lose motivation. So I also didn't compete in the second one. So I technically entered both of them, but I didn't play a single match in either. So
Oh wow.
this
Yeah.
was
So
the first one where I actually tried to make a run.
wow. So yeah, pretty much your first one, and you didn't play in any other like community-driven events otherwise.
No, I did not.
Wow, that is astonishing to me, honestly. Like, just to think you didn't, because even like the difference, and I'm sure you were able to scrimmage with some friends and stuff, but the difference from practicing on ladder to tournament is so staggering, in my opinion. It's just crazy to me to think you didn't really have that prior solid tournament experience to just kind of bank on, as far as, oh, I'm gonna bring these decks because they like kind of, if they ban this, then I'll still feel good with these two, and vice versa. And then also banning your opponent's decks and all of that. Like, wow, I just can't believe you were able to feel comfortable in doing any of that.
A lot of my preparation came like from playing on ladder and like even just like watching the other seasonal tournaments, right? And it was actually like the last top 32, right? So I was able to like watch the other tournaments and see what works, see what didn't work, and I actually think that really helped me. I was like, all right, this is what I expect to see. I actually changed my lineup a little bit because of like what I saw, like the cards in my lineup, not the decks, because of like what I saw in the other top 32s.
Wow, okay, that's really good to hear, and that was kind of where I wanted to get a little bit more insight from, because I knew you had to have like gotten some level of comfortability from something to be able to make it that far, and that's good to hear that you're able to just kind of learn from watching others, and that's something I would say is a little underrated and something I definitely prioritize myself, because even though I'm not I don't have intentions of trying to be the best, I do enjoy taking competitive seriously. So watching absorbing as much of this seasonal as I could, with intentions of applying what I learned into this next season, I think is definitely the way to go about it. Learn from others, and yeah, try to gain as much knowledge as you can during these seasonals. That they're putting on a show. It's entertaining, but it's also a very informative time for a lot of players who have intentions of getting better. So it's awesome to hear that you're able to use that in such a beneficial way to you as a player. Moving forward, let's so yeah, just in case you guys did not know, BlueGod was able to make it into the round of 32 of the, there we go, not the Ascended of Empires, Empires of Ascended seasonal tournament. My apologies, guys, for getting that wrong earlier. But you were able to make it all the way to top 8, eventually losing to Rigby, the eventual champion. Still feeling really good about that. Considering, yeah, once again, this is pretty much your first tournament. Let's once again take things back a little before we get into that round of 32 run. How are you feeling going into the open rounds? One of the most kind of common things I hear people discussing is you can't really bring certain decks to a tournament of this magnitude because you can face any and everything. So it's hard, like you can't go too focused on countering the best decks because of the amount of variety that you may see just innately with this many competitors. How are you thinking heading into those open rounds?
Okay. So, in my opinion, the best thing to do in like the open round playoff is just to bring like the three like most meta powerful decks, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
I unfortunately I didn't like play much TLC. I don't have much experience bringing TLC, so I didn't bring TLC into the open rounds. But what I did was obviously I brought Threshnasus. Threshnasus is really good. It beats a lot of decks, right? And instead of bringing TLC, I actually brought two Targon decks, right? My most comfortable deck is Zoe Asol. I'm mostly a Targon player. I really like playing Targon. Targon's a really good region, right?
So good.
So I brought Dragons, right, as my second deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I teched it I teched it a little bit against Threshnasus. I went ahead and added 3 Hushes. Normally on ladder I only have 1 Hush or 0, right? So I did a little bit of teching to Dragons, and I actually brought Zoe Diana as my final deck. And that's probably the deck I played the most. A lot of people banned Dragons. They actually didn't ban Threshnasus against me. It seemed like a lot of people were ready for Threshnasus. So
All right.
I
Yeah.
played like
Oh no, you can continue. You played what? I'm sorry.
But yeah, I played like I mostly started off playing Zoe Diana against like
Awesome.
Threshnasus or like Frostbite or something.
Awesome.
So
That's
yeah, in the open rounds, I just brought the three most meta powerful decks I could comfortably pilot, and it served me well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, and I really like that you obviously didn't make the unwise choice and force TLC into your lineup, even though you didn't have a lot of experience with it, because I feel like that's one of the biggest no-nos as far as tournaments go, is that even if a deck seems so powerful, if you haven't been playing it, it's probably best that you don't try to just throw it into your lineup and assume things will go well. There's so many, even the most simple of decks, the most aggro deck that you think has the lowest skill floor. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to playing in these high level matches, you'll want to have that level of comfortability and understanding of the deck for any given scenario, or at least as many as you can think of. And yeah, I'm glad that you didn't make that choice and went with some comfort picks, even if it was Targan, because I am a little bit on the side of Targan invokes are a little out of hand, but yeah, still some cool decks. I know What Am I is notorious for popularizing the Zoe Diana kind of invokes list. And that's cool that it was able to kind of benefit you to a very solid, successful run. And just right here, we're looking at some numbers from the top 32 players that ended up making it into the top 32 in the seasonal. And they just a lot of Threshnasus, a decent bit of that Zoe Asol, some TLC, a little bit of Lee Sin, some Draven, Ezreal, Diana. I was a little low on Lee Sin going into this, just because even though Lee Sin had won some prior big tournaments the weekend before, I just thought, one, very high skill level required for that deck, and then two, I feel like at times just so many spells are in that deck, you can kind of brick pretty easy, and then you're like just playing, can I draw my Lee Sin? Can I draw my Lee Sin? And for me personally, I'm just not a fan of that. So, still Lee Sin did okay this tournament, but not amazing like it did the weekend before. So I'm a little happy that my prediction was a little correct. And just some very interesting decks were able to go really, really far, as we had two deep players in finals. So just some very interesting stuff. Let's transition over here to look at how successful some of these exact archetypes were. So we had Zoe or the Asol Demacia, whether it was Zoe or Shyvana, doing extremely well. One of the best performing decks of the entire tournament. We also had Shurima Overwhelm having a pretty good showing, and then to no one's surprise, that Nasus Thresh doing some really good things for players who brought it. And then Deep honestly surprised me. I was pretty low on Deep going into the seasonal. I just felt like I was running into so many lists of Deep that just didn't feel optimized, and felt very matchup-y, but cool to see it work out for some people. And then some interesting things like Zoe Vilas having a okay showing, the very spicy Asol Soraka list with the Star Spring that pretty much came out of nowhere. Even Scargrounds having a little bit of showing there, and Targan's Peak. Oh my lord, did we just see some insane things, honestly. What caught you the most by surprise? What did you expect that maybe wasn't really there, or the opposite? What did you not expect to really show up that did show up? Any surprises at all?
So yeah, definitely the most surprising one to me was Targon Speak. I did not expect Targon Speak to win a tournament, especially not a tournament like the seasonal.
Right.
And yeah, as for Deep, going into the tournament, I did I thought about a lot of things. I did a lot of theory crafting, right? And the conclusion that I came to was that Deep. So Deep, like at least in my opinion, in the open rounds, is not very good, right? Um, like it, like open rounds to me, like you have to win like 8 or like 7 matches, right?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, Deep has like some pretty bad matchups, right?
Exactly.
And you can always, yeah, exactly. You can always just like run into a matchup you don't want to run into, and you'll just kind of get clapped and die, right? However, I think the meta completely changes in top 32, right? Like, I mean, one, it's a smaller run, right? Like, you're not gonna run into like a lot of the bad matchups you're used to running into.
Yeah.
And two, you can like tech against like a lot of players, right? You can tech against, you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure this guy's gonna bring like this certain deck, or I'm pretty sure like we're gonna see a lot of, for example, like Thresh Nasus, right? Whereas for example, like if you're playing in like the open like tournament where you have to fight 8 players, you're not necessarily gonna run into Thresh Nasus every time, right?
Yeah.
So like I think a deck like Deep becomes infinitely stronger in top 32 compared to like open round.
Yeah, that's very true. And that was kind of why I was a little low on it, because I was just like, I think the D players will struggle in the open rounds. But obviously, he had a very strong showing in top 32, and as well, even in EU, where a player did really well with it that didn't run Malachi in it. So yeah, it seems like Deep was in a pretty alright place. So I was very, very wrong there. And yeah, just really cool to see people really think outside the box and be willing to go outside the box. I feel like that's something that I've noticed, that a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't want to bring, even though this deck's been doing good for me, no one else is using it, and I don't want to like try to big brain it and then end up like making a fool of myself. So the fact that someone actually had the balls, there's no other way to put it, the balls to bring Targon's Peak, my lord. That's very, very, very ballsy, because yeah, very much so a deck that can high roll but can also extremely low roll you when you're playing it. Definitely a lot of RNG involved in Targon's Peak, so crazy to see a deck like that actually perform successfully, and it shall be interesting moving forward to see if players are willing to kind of walk outside of what's typical, and also even more so use decks that use kind of high rolly RNG elements that can also go the other way. So yeah, that should be very interesting. I was so honestly, yeah, I'm with you entirely. Targon's Peak is even crazier than an Aesol Soraka list. Like, wow, that actually did well.
Yeah, that definitely was the craziest one to me, because that's like the type of deck that can like really high roll and beat like pretty much every deck in the game, right?
Yeah.
But it can also like low roll, you never draw the Targon Speak, and you don't really have a play for like the first 6-7 turns. And what surprised me the most is like usually people bring Zoe with it just to at least give it a little bit of early game consistency, right?
Yeah.
The guy who brought Tryndamere, he didn't even bring Zoe.
Yep, good old usual Targon's Peak.
Definitely really surprised me. He went for like the absolute greediest version, and it paid off. So
yeah, the greediest version ever.
Congrats
Fill the
to him.
Rush, Tryndamere, yeah, just doing it the old school way. So crazy stuff to see.
What like surprised me the most, I guess, in open rounds was just like how willing people were to tech against the best deck in the game.
Which is a good call. That was one of the things I felt the most certain in, which was that Thresh Nasus is the best deck in the game. As far as like what it's able to do early game, how easily that early game transitions into the late game, because of the fact that the early game is going wide, doing a ton of damage, but then also just in the deck, Nasus is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then at the same time you can also be leveling up a Thresh that's just gonna then help get that Nasus on the field for no cost at all. So yeah, this deck's just, it's arguably one of the best decks we've ever seen in the game, I would say, just in the way that the early game is very powerful and then transitions into a very hard to deny late game, especially with one of the most powerful meta staples we've had since pretty much this game's been around in Atrocity. So just literally so many things all came together for this deck to be as strong as it is. And yeah, I thought that was pretty clear. So it doesn't really surprise me actually that many people were trying to go against that deck because of how strong it is. But what were you? Did your Thresh Nasus have any like text for that, or were you more focused on your other decks being okay into Thresh Nasus?
I was more focused on my other decks.
Yeah.
I did like include a little bit of tech.
Okay.
I included the box, like a one copy of the box and
Yeah,
one copy
I like
of the
that card a
Wu-Tang
lot.
Whale. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I actually think like, to me, like, I really like those cards, and I really like. So, for example, I wouldn't tech a card like Vengeance, because to me, like Vengeance, it felt like it was pretty much like only gonna be good for me in the mirror, right? Whereas a card like Withering Wail or like the box, you can really like beat other decks with it, right? You're not necessarily only targeting Thresh Nasus with it.
Yeah, I would have never thrown Vengeance or Ruination in my Thresh Nasus
Oh,
list.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
There is one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah,
okay?
of course.
And it was so. I talked about how I teched Thresh Nasus for the mirror, right?
Yes, sir.
But I also teched like my other decks a little bit differently. For the mirror and for like what decks I was running into, right?
Yeah.
So in my Zoe Diana version, right, I actually ran so something I really struggled with when I was playing Zoe Diana on ladder, and this was like, so I scrimmed like and played ladder a lot for the whatchamacallit, the tournament, right? And like there were two decks I ran into a lot of problems with, and it was whatchamacallit, LeBlanc Ash. I ran into a lot of LeBlanc Ash, right? And like LeBlanc Ash has to be like, I don't know. It felt like one of Targon's worst matchups, right? Like I played that matchup and I just could not win. And another like matchup I ran into, which was like giving me a lot of problems, was Scouts, right? So in my Zoe Diana version, I actually ran two Black Spears, right? I went ahead and I teched two Black Spears. Yeah, I knew it was going to mess up my Allegiance a little bit. Luckily, it actually didn't mess up my Allegiance once. But
That's
I really
good.
wanted, like, counterplay to, like, Misfortunes. I wanted, like, removal, pretty much, right? Because Zoe Diana doesn't have removal unless you invoke it from Priestess, right?
Yeah. And I'm actually
Yeah.
really huge on Black Spear. I think cards like that, like, I know it's no Ravenous Flock, but being able to deal 4 damage with a card that costs 3 or less, I think is very powerful, and most decks will feel better with having that option. Just in case a really strong unit gets down and you're in an unfavorable position against it, being able to do something about that's big. And yeah, Misfortune's probably one of the most notorious ones that you want a Black Spear for.
Yeah, exactly. And in my Dragons list, I even included one copy of this in Zoe Diana, right? I had Solari Shield Bear, right? When I was playing on ladder, like if I play on ladder, I'm pretty much always gonna run Goat, right? Because Goat, Spacey Sketcher, like such a good combo, gives a lot of value, right?
Yep.
But in tournament, I expected a lot of people to play like more for tempo, and I expected to run into like a lot of Ash LeBlanc. I was watching streams, and a lot of people were talking about. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Ash LeBlanc. And dude, like Dragons or Zoe Diana versus Ash LeBlanc feels really bad. And one of the reasons it feels really bad is because of their their high attack units that like you're very uncomfortable blocking, right? Like Diana doesn't get good blocks, Goat doesn't get good blocks, Spacey Sketcher doesn't get good blocks, but Targon has one card that can block LeBlanc on 3, right? And just like block really well in the match, and that's Solari Shield Bearer. She has 6 defense, right?
Yeah.
So I went ahead, and because I expected to see a lot of Ash LeBlanc, and I was having a lot of trouble with it on ladder, I went ahead and I teched Solari Shield Bearer, and it actually saved me. I don't think I would have made top 32 if it wasn't for Shield Bearer bailing me out from like Ash LeBlanc.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for actually covering that because, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like one thing
No
people
problem.
undervalue is the value of techs as far as tournaments go. And, yeah, the fact that you're kind of peeping around, eavesdropping on some streams and seeing what you could figure out, that's definitely the way to go about it. And, yeah, that seems very, like, it obviously worked out for you and very beneficial. Teching is honestly one of the most fun things about tournaments, in my opinion, because sometimes if you try to go too big brain and bring something too off meta, it may not work out. But if you get a deck that is a pretty good deck that has a history of doing good on ladder and just performing well, and then you add your own little bit of tech to what's giving you trouble and stuff, you can find yourself still having that little bit of team building fun that you get from making a whole new deck list without maybe just giving yourself no shot at actually winning. So yeah, really awesome. And I'm glad it worked out for you. Let's start at the beginning. In your first matchup around 32, even the day before, after you realized you had qualified and just what you were thinking heading in, just give us like a complete rundown of just kind of how all that came about and how you were feeling.
So the night before, obviously I was a little bit anxious, right? I'm always anxious before big tournaments. But
Yeah.
something I like to do is I like to just collect a big group of friends when I'm anxious and I talk to them. So it was actually my friends that got me into playing lore. So I went ahead, I collected my friends. We had a talk. I talked to them about the meta. I talked to them about cards I'm gonna switch. I asked for their opinions, and it helped calm me down, right?
Heck yeah.
And I went into the tournament the next day and I was like, I'm gonna play my best. If I lose, I lose. If I win, that's awesome. I won. But I want to have no regrets, right?
Yes.
And yeah. So the game I was the most anxious in was my first game, because I really didn't want to go 0-1, right? I wanted to win at least one game, right? So after I won the first game, I felt it's kind of like a monkey off my back,
Yeah,
right? I
big
felt
weight off
really
your shoulders.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So as soon as I won that first game, I immediately felt a lot better.
And that went to
I think I
2-1.
even played better.
What do you recall a little bit of how close that was? Did it come down a little to the wire?
Yes, that was actually my closest match of the entire tournament, right?
Oh Lord.
So yeah, so it was. I don't remember what opponent. Oh no, okay. So I actually do remember. So my opponent played. My opponent played Lee Sin. Okay. He beat me with Lee Sin. It was a really close match. He had to switch decks. No. So I beat his Lee Sin with my Dragons list, right?
Okay.
And then he stayed on Lee Sin and he beat my Thresh Nasus. And in the final game, it came down to a Thresh Nasus mirror, right?
Oh no.
So I was able to, so our Nasuses were about as big, but he killed my Nasus. I forgot exactly how. This was actually one of the people who teched Vengeance in the mirror. I forgot exactly how he killed my Nasus. Maybe he forced me to block it with his Nasus or something.
Yeah.
But however, when he killed my Nasus, right, he leveled my Thresh, right? So what I did was the very next turn, I hooked his Nasus, right?
Yeah.
And I attacked, and another Nasus came out of my deck, and we both had no cards in hand, right? We both had to use Atrocity defensively. We both had to use Rite of Negation. We both had to use all our resources, right?
Yeah.
I only had a Thresh. He only had a Nasus, but it was my attack token, right? I attack, and my opponent top decks his one Vengeance, okay? So it's however, I top deck Rite of Negation,
oh
right?
my lord.
Yes. And I was able to get that Rite of Negation on his Vengeance, and I was able to win the game. If I didn't have that Rite of Negation, obviously he would have a Nasus. I would have nothing. I would have 0 cards in hand. Even if I top deck Atrocity or something, I lose. I lost my Nasus, right? He would just open attack or do Atrocity, do whatever he's gonna do. So it came down to a top deck war, and he top decked the perfect answer, but I top decked the perfect answer to his answer. So I was able to win.
Oh my. Yeah, that is just, sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. You need a little bit of lady luck on your side in order to get those top decks that are very timely and then also just put yourself in a position where you can win from a top deck. So even though there is some obviously inherent luck involved in stuff like that, you also were in a position where that card could win you the game. So you already obviously did some things right to be in that position. So good on you for doing that, and awesome to hear that. Yay, you had a spicy game in that first round, but you did still win, and that was one of your biggest goals going into the round of 32. So dang, that's awesome. Thank you for going over that story. Moving on from there, like we said, you went against that Santa TCG. Do you recall a little bit of that one? How did that one go 2-1?
Okay, so Santa TCG. So it was actually the opposite. I thought you asked me to talk about the Santa TCG.
Oh, okay,
match,
so that was the one. Okay.
So that one was a super close one to make top 8. My first match, I believe. Okay, so I believe so. My opponent played Zoe Asol.
Yes.
And yeah, so I played Zoe Diana, right? So the Zoe Asol Zoe Diana matchup, if they have Eclipse Dragon into Asol on turn 7 and turn 8, there's just like almost nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
So he played, like you can't really remove Asol. I mean, you technically can with like Hush Obliterate, but you're spending 2 cards to do that, and Asol invokes like a Living Legends or a big threat that you're also gonna have to deal with next turn, so it's very rough.
Yeah.
So my opponent got the Eclipse Dragon, right? And he got a J4. And I was like, oh no, this is over. However, the next turn he plays, I think, like another Eclipse Dragon or something. Like, yes, he doesn't have the Asol. I can win this. So what happens is I play Mountain Scryer, right?
Yeah.
And it gives me Living Legends.
Ooh.
So from Living Legends, I didn't hit any of the big threats, but I hit Cosmic Inspiration, right? So I played Cosmic Inspiration. And the very next turn, I still had a Cosmic Inspiration I invoked earlier from my first Mountain Scryer. So I double, like, Cosmic Inspiration,
No
and, like,
way.
my board was just simply too big. Yeah, he didn't have Asol, like, so...
Dang.
I believe my opponent even FF'd. He didn't, like, let me kill his Nexus. He was just like, yeah, your board is just too big.
Yeah, he was probably a little upset about that. But yeah, that's honestly also very crazy because, Cosmic Inspiration is generally a card that, being a 7-mana slow spell in a meta where game's in on turn 8 due to the TLC Watcher combo, it's generally a card that's a little hard to find the effectiveness in this current meta. So really crazy to think you're able to play 2 of them to come back from being a little bit not able to really do much with some 7/7 dragons on the field. So yeah, that's also quite the interesting matchup, and just really shows how just like how decks have to use every inch. They need to you got to squeeze everything you can get out of these decks in certain matchups to just pull out right at the end. And I'm glad to hear that you were being battle tested. That's the experience you want to have, so you can move forward into the next seasonal and use that.
Exactly.
Use all of that.
I want to go ahead and touch on that real quick. That's exactly why I think it's very, very important to bring decks that you're comfortable with. You know. So I mentioned this earlier, but I'm primarily a Targon player, right? On ladder, I mostly play Targon. I don't know, Targon is just super fun to me. I think they have the best artwork. I think they have the best aesthetics, and I like their playstyle. Like I like being greedy. I like going to late game, right?
Yeah, I think
but I don't like play control. Yeah. So one of the things, so there's 2 things in the Targon mirror that are very important, right?
Yeah.
And one is Asol. Like, Asol is usually going to be your win condition in the mirror. And the second most important thing is Cosmic Inspiration, right? Like Targon is, like, really good at shutting down, like, one big, strong unit. But if you have, like, a board full of, like, big, strong threats, that, like, it becomes really hard for, like, the Retian to do anything, right?
Yeah, that's where
obviously I played that mirror, like, many times on ladder, because a lot of people play Targon. So, like, I was comfortable enough with the Retian to, like, quickly identify, like, the win conditions in the mirror. And so when it came down to it, I was like, I'm just going to take 2 Cosmic Inspirations. I already have a big board, so it worked out for me.
Heck yeah, there's that comfortability. And another just the point we can't emphasize enough. If you go into tournaments like this and you want to do well, bring decks you're comfortable with, but that doesn't mean bring some meme decks you've been playing. If you're taking tournaments seriously, I think it's also in your best interest to make sure that at least the decks you're bringing are around at least that tier C tier 3 range, so that you're not putting yourself at too much of a disadvantage by just bringing comfortability. Make sure you familiarize yourself with some of the best decks and find which one you like the most, and then try to stick with a good arsenal of those decks, and make sure you bring those ones rather than, oh, Thresh Nessus is the best, but I played it not once, let me throw it in here. That won't work. So yeah, that emphasized it very well for our viewers, so I appreciate that. So yeah, let's get on to that last and final matchup that you had, obviously against the eventual champion in a Rigby. How did things shake down with you and him? Obviously he unfortunately 2-0'd you. How did that go down?
Oh, I don't remember exactly. That was actually the quickest match I played.
I can real quickly.
Unfortunately,
I can say his decks. So deck 1 he had the Shyvana Asol. Deck 2 he had the Zoe Vi, and then deck 3 was his Maokai Nautilus.
right. So I immediately went to ban Shyvana Asol
Okay.
because my Shyvana Asol I run only 2 copies of Asol, right?
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, I think like the most important like win condition in the mirror is Asol, right?
Yeah. Whoever gets it down
Asol's
first.
like very good doing. Yeah, exactly. And whoever like gets like the tack token and gets a Sky's Descend before the
Yeah.
other person can respond, right? So I only had 2, and his list was like greedier than mine, right? There's no way I'm gonna be able to pressure him and like kill him early game, because like I said, I teched mine like with Shield Bearer, I teched mine with like a few more early game units because I expected people to play for tempo a little bit more in
Yeah.
top 32. So I was like, all right, I'm banning the mirror because his list is greedier than mine. So first game, he played. I'm not sure if this was the first or second, but no, it was the first one. So he played deep against my Thresh Nessus. So no, it was actually deep versus Zoe Diana. Sorry.
Okay.
And he drew 3 Lure of the Depths.
Oh my.
So yeah, so so that was like probably my most bricked hand of the tournament. I drew like 3 Solari Priestesses, I think, in the opening hand, and he opened with 3 Lure of the Depths. And like, mind you, on turn 3, his play was Lure of the Depths, double Sea Scarab, and. And the next, okay, I'm like, all right, my turn 3, I guess, is Solari Priestess. Okay, nice. I was able to hit Obliterate. I have counterplay to Nasus. As long as he doesn't have like too many more sea monsters in hand, like I should be able to recover from this like loss of tempo, right? Because
Yeah.
like I actually have counterplay to Nautilus. Next turn, he plays another Lure of the Depths, and he somehow yeah, he plays Lord of the Depths, and then like on turn 6, he plays 2 Abyssalize. And mind you, he's deep now.
Yeah.
So I take 12 damage. He draws cards, but I'm like, all right, I got my Squire down. Maybe I can like outvalue him or something. But like his board is insanely big on like turn 6. It's like a 5/6, it's a 5/6, and it's a 6/6 and a 6/6. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play like he doesn't have Nautilus in hand because like that's gonna be my only out, right?
Yeah.
I play him like my second or like third Priestess or Scry. I don't remember exactly what I played. And then like, obviously I go down under Obliterate mana. I had no choice. I had no board. I wanted to try to hit like Sisters or something, try to stabilize. He slams Nautilus, and because he had already played 3 Lord of the Depths, he could literally play like any sea monster at 0 cost afterwards. And now he's a 13/13 Fearsome Tough, and I don't even have a blocker for it. I just FF'd and went next.
Yeah, that makes sense, and just sounds like one that obviously like he high rolled while you low rolled, and those are always the worst scenarios possible. Then how did Zoe Vi go?
So Zoe Vi, so I had Zoe in opening hand, okay. So that was really good. I don't think he had Zoe in opening hand. But however, my 4 cards next to Zoe were unplayable. I believe I had something like double Hush and like double Atrocity. So I was able to connect with Zoe. So I did get that super cool. Unfortunately, I did not hit the Doggo. I hit like Spell Shield on like Moonsilver or something, but there was nothing I wanted to Moonsilver. So fortunately, I was able to get the Spell Shield on Zoe off. But I didn't like really draw anything besides Zoe either in the second game. So he kind of like he had a double ballistic bot. He had Vi. He had like an insanely like strong like tempo game. And I just
And you kind of low rolled
I went
again.
like down in tempo. Yeah, so I got creamed. Like both matches were over in like it almost felt like 2 minutes. Like,
Oh
and I was
my.
like, Jesus. I mean, I really hate that this is how it had to go. I wish I could have gave him like a better challenge. I didn't mind losing, right? Like it's a card game. These types of things happen. I
Yeah, and
really
you
wish
already
like
went
I at
so
least gave him a
far.
better fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I was very comfortable, especially like maybe like the deep one. Like I like don't mind losing to, but I was very comfortable in like the Targon mirror. But I never really got to like show like how much I know about Targon because I just didn't get playable cards.
Yeah. Well, that's completely fair, and that's unfortunate, but that's obviously a card game for you. At the end of the day, draw is any and everything in the game, so even if you're able to, like, have the good decks, have decks you're comfortable with, put yourself in a good position to succeed, you can then run into that one matchup where your opponent's high rolling, you're low rolling, and it feels like the whole world's against you, and yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So that's where, once again, a little bit of luck does need to be on your side to make it as far as possible in a tournament. But at the end of the day, for luck to even matter, you have to still put yourself in pretty good positions through good play. So it's not luck alone. It's just luck is like the icing on top sometimes to allow someone to either high roll their opponent or allow someone to not low roll the way you did. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate. But at the end of the day, he obviously, Rigby showed in the finals that he did have some really awesome decks, even with his opponent not bricking like you kind of did, and really showed he deserved to be that far. And obviously, yeah, probably made you feel a little better too, losing to the eventual champion as well.
Exactly. If there's one
Yeah.
person I'm fine with losing with, it's the eventual champion. So
Yeah.
congrats to him.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, congrats so much on that, man, and I can't wait to see what's next for you. What is next for you? Intentions of going to Worlds since you've already competed and won a Japan Evo and Soul Calibur? Are you trying to join a team? Are you taking your content creation to the next level? Let us know. What's your next plans?
So there's two things I really want to do. The most important thing to me is I do want to start streaming more, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, like Legends of Runeterra is just like so fun to me. I see myself like playing it a lot. I see myself playing it a lot like far into the future. So I do want to like try my hand at streaming. So I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to do that and like take it seriously. See, if I can get viewers, that would be cool. And my secondary goal is obviously I do want to qualify for Worlds.
Awesome.
Like I said, I'm a really competitive guy, and like obviously Worlds is going to be like the event for like Runeterra, right? There's a seasonal, so like probably the second biggest thing, but Worlds is like the one big tournament, right? Where like you can fight
200,000.
like literally exactly 200,000, and like you fight people from like around the world, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be really cool. And I
We
really
can-
want to be a part of it. Unfortunately, like I think I got a decent amount of points, but I never entered the other seasonals. Well, I mean, I technically did, but I got DQ'd. But I guess I'll have to qualify for it to try to qualify through it through ladder. So probably the next couple of like seasons, I'm gonna like try my hand and just try to get top 5 on the ladder to build up more points.
That makes a lot of sense. I think we should have another season or two that maybe if you get another good finish in, you can put yourself in an okay position. But yeah, that's awesome. I wish you the best of luck with all of that, the content creation, everything. Thankfully, Legends of Runeterra has a very supportive community. I've only been streaming for I would say like 2 months now, and people have been generous, very kind. It's really been awesome. This is a very awesome community, and and just by talking to you
Definitely
and
agree.
talking to you prior to this, I can already get vibes of you being a very awesome, friendly person. So it's nice to have even like to continue to interact with good people in this community. So yeah, I hope all those your content creation endeavors go well in a community that supports its creators pretty well and its players. Like having top finishes generally results in a lot more support. And then also, I hope you can reach your aspirations as a competitive player as well. And I'll be rooting for you, man, because you seem extremely kind.
Thank you.
And
I
we'll
do
see
appreciate it.
as sorry, but real quick, I just want to say we'll see as this game gets bigger too. Maybe some teams will start be looking out for some people who went as far as you did, in this seasonal. Because 200,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, last thing I just want to leave off on is we are very much so approaching the end of the season now that seasonals has wrapped up, and we are coming in on a very hype new season with some awesome new cards and some new champions in Malphite. Zillion, and what we pretty much foregone conclusion. We pretty much know that it's Aurelia. How are you feeling about those new cards overall, without going too into each specific one, and then give us some maybe like one or two cards that you really got your eye on as far as messing around with in next season.
Okay. All right. So I'm not gonna lie. From like the first couple of reveals, I wasn't like too hyped. There wasn't
Okay.
anything that really interested me. But the last couple of reveals, like in general, I think I've had like amazing, really good cards that I think are really gonna like shake up the identity of like regions. Like for example, that one Ionia swap card that came
Oh,
out
yeah.
today. Like that card is insane. I think that like completely like changes like the identity of Ionia, right? You can like do a lot of things that normally you're not used to like doing. Like maybe now Ionia can be like like a carry region rather than like a supportive region, right? Like maybe it isn't just like, oh hey, we're either like deny and opify side tech or like main deck Lee Sin, right? That's pretty much Ionia. Well, but with these new cards, maybe not. So I'm really excited to like see the meta shape up and even like just region identity shape up. And as for two cards, I'm really excited for. Um, Obviously, I play Targon, so a card I'm really excited for is Solari Sunhawk, I believe it's called. Yeah, Solari
Me
Sunhawk.
too. Me too.
2 mana, 2/3 stun, the strongest, not the weakest, the strongest unit,
Right.
right? Like that's gonna be so good. Like one of my favorite champions from Targon. I play League. I actually hate this champion in League, but I really like her in lore. It's Leona.
Leona.
Yeah. So exactly. Maybe Leona will actually be good this time. And like with Solari Sunhawk, and I'm really excited to play her. Like if you play Morning Light, that's 3 stuns now, right? Like
Yeah,
you just
absolutely
have like
insane.
stronger early game. Yeah, so that's a card I'm excited for. And the second card I'm really excited for. I really like this champion. I like her design. I like her gameplay in League. I hope I like her gameplay in lore. It's Irelia.
Aurelia, okay.
Yeah, and I joke about this with my friends. It's that in the lore, Ionia was like losing to Noxus, right?
Yeah.
And Irelia single-handedly carried Ionia and won the war, right?
Yep.
So in the lore, Irelia carried whatchamacallit, Ionia.
Ionia,
So I
yeah.
hope in actual lore, Legends of Runeterra, Irelia also solo carries the region and becomes like this, sick champion you can build around that's not Lee Sin.
Yeah, it definitely looks like she's offering
Yeah.
quite the utility with already getting some recall cards, the way her blades are going to be working. It definitely seems like things will be very interesting as far as Ionia. And I'm glad, even though I'm not necessarily the biggest Ionia fan, I do love me some Yasuo, but kind of aside from that, other than during the Ash Karma days, I haven't been too huge on Ionia, but I do dislike when a region's like just in the like dog water, no one's using it, and that's kind of where Ionia got in this identity crisis, where like you said, it's pretty much Eye of the Dragon, Lee Sin, and deny and nopify, nothing else. So yeah, I will love to see Ionia have a little bit more identity, see if recalled can be a little bit better. And oh my god, just to go off of your point too, there's only one swap card in the game. I did not see swap getting another card at all, considering that just Shin's
mana.
champ spell is the only swap card we have. So the fact that we got a burst 2 mana swap card is insane. And yeah, I think that does so much. Like now you can maybe use Swole Swole Squirrel, and maybe that's not as much as a meme, because now you could actually like switch it, and then now it's attacking into the
Exactly.
Nexus, and it gets its boost more consistently.
Or-
Now
or,
Zed
like-
can actually attack, maybe like they could be blocking Zed, and then they're now all of a sudden they're not. Like I think that changes so much, and I think everyone needs to realize that card is going to be everywhere. That card is amazing.
Yes, there's so many like little possibilities, that weren't like before. Like it just was like Lee Sin kick. This is only win condition in Ionia.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I can Lee Sin kick and I can like swap in Swole Squirrel at the last second or something who has like 20 attack. Now I don't even need Overwhelm on my Lee Sin, right?
Exactly.
Or like you said, I can Zed attack and like burst level him for 2 mana.
Exactly.
Or I can like, or even just like the blade cards, like you can start doing like MF Ionia, like, right? Or you can just like, oh hey, opponent wants to like, I don't know, thermogenic my Lee Sin, well, I can play the 2-mana swap card, and now Fizz is the target. Now he fizzles the spell, right? So
Yeah.
like, Ionia just has like a lot of like. I think Ionia is gonna like have a lot more flavor next patch, whereas it was like really boring this patch. So I'm really excited for that because Ionia, Targon are my favorite 2 regions.
Yeah, things got shaken up. I definitely love me some SI. Not as much so this region, considering how, I don't know, I didn't like how Spell Shield Nasus felt with Atrocity, so not as much so this region, but generally speaking, I love Shadow Owls, and I honestly would love to see a Kindred buff, just making him a little cheaper. 5 mana is like a ton for Kindred. And yeah, we'll just see where buffs and nerfs go. We'll have to see where everything goes, but yeah, definitely excited for those same cards as you. Shall be very interesting, and I'm also actually, I love Leona. She's arguably my favorite champion, so I'm very excited for the Sunhawk as well.
Man of culture.
Yeah, I'm making sure I'm taking that card. I'm gonna try so hard to take Leona to Masters. I love Leona, and I've wanted to see her succeed for a while. I think Nightfall's actually, I like cold Targan, so not just like making invokes and stuff. I like Leona because she doesn't feel broken, and then Diana as well. I love Nightfall, and it's cool stuff. And yeah, like obviously Nightfall's the opposite of Daybreak, so I love that Leona seems like her archetype will actually be able to compete a little bit more with Nightfall, since Nightfall got Unto Dust, which is an amazing card, especially for Doom Beast. So yeah, it's nice to see that Daybreak support. So shall be interesting. People may hate this meta considering all the stun, and now Yasuo may be good, and then yeah, now that swap card seems pretty crazy. Yeah, this could be a very toxic meta. We'll have to see how players react, but overall, it should definitely at least be different, and I feel like at the end of the day, that's what most people want, so that's what I'm excited for. And overall, thank you so much for joining me for this, man. You were so awesome to talk to, and I really enjoyed my time. I definitely hope we can do this again, and I will definitely be making it out to your streams. Just make sure to get me informed, and links in the description so you can follow BlueGod on his Twitter, on his Twitch, and make sure to throw an awesome friendly player in the community some support. And yeah, I can't wait to see what else you accomplish in this scene, man. And thank you for allowing all of us to get to know you a little bit better, man. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks to you as well, man. I had a great time. It was really fun. I also had a lot of fun, like getting to know you, getting to talk to you. And yeah, I will be streaming, so if you guys want to check me out, the links will be in the description. I would really appreciate it. I'm just starting out. I'm probably not going to have a lot of viewers, so yeah, every one of you guys will matter and count. Yeah, I had a really good time, man. Until next time.
Yep, I know how that feels, man. That's exactly how I started, and now I actually have a few staples in my audience, and they all mean the world to me. So yeah, definitely go over and support BlueGod. You stay safe, man. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Meta Assessment. For now, though, that's it from us.
You as well.
Peace out.
Peace.